Hi, hello. My name is Brenda Vega, and I am from Quito, Ecuador. I work as an art and photography teacher at Universidad San Francisco de Quito, and I'm very pleased to share my latest research with you. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, I hope you're watching my screen. The name of my research is Long Exposure Photography from Zero Parallel, Pre-Inca Conception of Time and its relation with celestial bodies. The purpose of this study is to create a photographic archive made of long exposure photographs from the ancestral cultures of Ecuador. In some of the astronomical sites and Pukaraes, which are pre-Columbian fortresses, in the area called Pomasqui Valley, located in northern highlands of Ecuador, specifically, and I quote, the territory between the slopes of the Guayabamba River in the north and the Cotocollao Plains in the south, according to Almeida. For reference with Google Earth view, they are located just outside Quito, the capital of Ecuador. And this is a view from all the country, and you can see the area which I put a pin on them to focus the research. I started this research late 2018. This investigation was meant to last 1 year throughout 2019. My idea was to work in different pre-Columbian sites, Catequillá, Rumicucho, Cochasquí, and La Marca, being astronomical sites, Catequillá and Cochasquí, and Pukaraes, Rumicucho, and La Marca. Sadly, COVID-19 happened, and that made the investigation to stop for a while. Although, if you can see, these were meant to be the sites of the research. I'm going to tell you about the precedence of my research now. Regarding the meaning and use of the Pukaraes, they served as sites of solar worship and centers of astronomical observation. This knowledge was crucial for the ancestral cultures in the organization of civil and religious life through the elaboration of calendars. All these functions made of one Pukara a kind of a small town or fortified citadel, in which its inhabitants dedicated themselves to a multiplicity of productive, symbolic, ceremonial, and military activities. I redirected my research after I had an interview with Eduardo Almeida in 2019. He is a local archaeologist who for many years oversaw the Rumicucho Pukara research. I quote what he told me. The only registered Pukaraes from Pomasqui Valley are La Marca, Trigoloma, and Rumicucho. La Marca and Trigoloma have not been researched at present. I think they do not exist anymore. Cochasquí is not a Pukara, but a residential and ceremonial center of the Caranquis. Catequillá, whose footprints are still visible, we can see Catequillá in the picture, is a ritual site related to the movement of the moon. This study is considering the ways of inhabiting that would have developed in late pre-Hispanic times, Escaro 2019, and how this relation between the land and the sky is translated into a photographic epistemology regarding long exposure and night photography in the ancestral archaeological sites of my country, Ecuador. The aim of this investigation was to create 4 different photographs, one on each side, and I chose the number 4 to coincide the creation of each photo with the dates of the equinoxes, March 20th, September 23, and solstices, June 21st and December 21st, being the exact dates in 2019. When I revisited the investigation, I decided I will take a photograph on September 20, 2021 in Catequiza, the day when the harvest full moon happened. What am I after? Photographic epistemology regarding long exposure and star trails. Photography was created with a combination of both optics and chemistry. One needed the other in order to produce an image that is similar to the world. What the eye sees is no longer a depiction of a painting. In the late 19th century and the beginning of the 20th, artists were eager to show the truth in a photograph. Names like Paul Strand and Walker Evans comes to mind. According to Thompson, 2003, quote, photography is a point of view, a view from a single point in space. It shows things as they appear, not as they are. My take on creating a digital analog archive is subjectivity more than objectivity in the temperament of a photograph. The medium of photography uses its elements to understand the world and create an interpretation of it, as I am created an archive of landscape and night photography from archaeological sites. Regarding epistemology in photography, Cohen and Aaron refer to the photograph as, and I quote, an information carrier whose conditions of employment are easier to satisfy than other information carriers, end quote, since it conveys information like no other medium. Photography teaches me how to see, when and where. I follow the instructions and make it happen. And I'm going to talk about Catequiza. According to Almeida, Mount Catequiza is not a Pukara, but a ritual center. The Pukaraes have a different purpose. They were meant to be a military base that gained momentum in the last centuries of the Aboriginal history of the Andes, Almeida 2000. Mount Catequiza is located in the Pomaski zone, the precise mitad del mundo or middle of the world, located at the zero parallel, 0, 0, 0, very close to Quito, the capital of Ecuador. The word Catequiza in Quito language is written Hatiquiza and means waning moon. And in the Pukara myth, pre-Columbian people, is represented by the tiger moon. In Quechua language, is pronounced Catequil, and it would mean following or covering the moon. Costales, 1996. This site was considered a space of social, territorial, and chronological order, because from this space, the movement of the sun and the constellations can be better observed. Being in the zero latitude zone, the sun travels in a horizontal and a parallel way to the horizon plane, where the projected light does not shade any side of the hemispheres. Rivera Molina, 2018. The Catequiza Mount is considered a strategic point where the sunlight and the position of the constellations provide a great relationship with the celestial vault. Long exposure photographs in Catequiza. When I embarked on the practice side of this research, I wanted to create my first exposure around the time of the winter solstice, December 21st in 2018. Although one of the main problems that my investigation had encountered since the very beginning was the bad and unpredictable weather in this area. I could only achieve one photograph dated December 30th, 2018 for a few hours. The sky was clear. Other than that, was very hazy. I made a photograph from the top of Mount Catequiza at the exact zero parallel, capturing the perpendicular plane to the north. This long exposure photograph was taken with a Sony A7R II with a various sonar 1635 millimeters, 2.8 Carl Zeiss lens. The resulting image is comprised by 855 photographs. Each of the photographs was 15 seconds long. with an interval of 2 seconds between shots. The process of editing the photograph was first removing all the pictures that include several layers of clouds. And this is a common problem in the area because it is located near the canyon of the Guayabamba River, through which the air masses flow and collide. There is a crossing of winds, which results in a thick layer of clouds. After this process, I edited the photos to get the same white balance and then converted them into JPEGs. This part is very important because the amount of data that each of the raw image produces causes unnecessary space from the computer drive, making the process slow. Finally, I used a freeware software called StarStax, and it allowed me to merge a series of photos into this single image where the relative motion of the stars creates structures looking like star trails. After I got a single photo from a compilation of hundreds of digital images, I created a black and white negative and a positive image in Adobe Photoshop, which I later printed in acetate. Afterwards, I lumen printed 2 copies. The lumen print is an analog process, is a printing process, and is something that fascinates me and is part of my artistic practice. It's basically black and white photographic paper exposed into sunlight with no camera at all. I placed the acetates and the paper together for 12 hours and exposed it to the sun. And why I chose 12 hours, it has to do with the conception of the equatorial time. One photograph equals the night and the other equals the day. All year long in my region, there are 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. And this is the positive lumen print. And this is the negative lumen print. I am a part of a duo called Bright Night Matter. We showed this process early January 2019 in London as part of the Fallen Stars Stella Candenti Lumen Residency 2019 exhibition in the Crypt Gallery in Houston. And the idea behind these images was to make a commentary about the North, the Polaris star, and its position in relation to the equator, capturing the perpendicular plane to the north. And I understood the meaning behind the catequiza and its importance for the ancestral cultures to look at the moon. Thus, my research will be redirected towards the moon in this specific place, which I didn't do before. Catequiza, or following the moon, as is one of the meanings of its name. I want to create a long exposure photograph from this site, but this time directing at the moon during the equinox of 2019, September 23rd. On this date, the moon phase was a third quarter with a visibility of 36%. If I wanted to achieve a full moon, I would have to make photos during 13, 14, or 15 of September of 2019, but the idea behind the equinox will be lost. Subsequently, I waited almost 2 years to make that happen, to take a photograph of the full moon around the autumn equinox that was September 22nd, 2021. A few weeks ago. I wanted to engage in an exploration where I could see the full moon arising at the top of the Mount Catequila. That was my aim. If I wanted to succeed, I had to do it only one day, September 20th, the harvest moon day, the last full moon of the summer season. According to Bird, when a full moon happens close to the autumn equinox, the moon on the following night rises closer to the time of the sunset. For mid-temperature latitudes, it rises only about 20 to 25 minutes later daily for several days before and after the full harvest moon. In Ecuador, on September 20th, 2021, the sun rose at 6:31 a.m. and the sunset happened at 6:10 p.m. The exact moment of the moonrise was 6:14 p.m. 4 minutes after the sunset and reached the full moon at 6:56 p.m. Knowing that I had not much time to spare, I had to take as many photos as possible, weather permitted. Sadly, I only took a few good photographs, and I was not lucky enough due to the heavy and unpredictable haze. And this was one of the resulting photographs. This was the other photograph, which was on Catequiza with the view of Cayambe volcano. And you can see the timing, which was at 1827 and almost the full moon. And the last photograph that I took this year was this one. There was almost a full moon. It was taken at 6:41 p.m. That was 10 minutes before reaching the full moon, but at full moon time, it was not possible to make any photograph. As you can see, the moon is bright and it's very high, and the weather was really hazy. And basically, I didn't see anything through the camera lens during several minutes. And I want to talk about the other part of my research, which is Rumicucho Pukara. One of the largest and most important indigenous monuments of the northern highlands of the country, Ecuador, is the Pukara of Rumicucho. This site is located 30 kilometers north of the city of Quito, in the famous area of the middle of the world, according to Almeida, 1994. It is located in the eastern part of the plain of Rumicucho, a semi-desert zone located 4 kilometers north of the town of San Antonio de Pichincha, north of the city of Quito. The hill on which this Pukara was built allows to have visual control of the Cayambe Nevado and several more areas at 360 degrees. And I quote, "It has a strategic location, not only in terms of the visual domain in large areas, but also in terms of its location in a territory of economic and political importance." Almeida, 2000. The results of the archaeological excavations in relation to the architecture of Rumicucho indicate that it is unlikely that it was built prior to the Inca period, although in the analysis of the ceramics, it is shown that certain types of potters belong to a late cultural group identified in the Sierra Norte in the Caranqui area. This area was inhabited by ethnic groups like Caranquis, Otavalos, Cayambes, and so on, that before the imminent Inca invasion, they united to face the common enemy. Almeida and Jara, 1984. At the same time that Rumicucho served as a military base, it is thought that the Incas should have included other objects for this place related to the culture in the religious and astronomical field, considering that it is located in the equatorial zone. The Pukara is made up of 5 terraces, each one with a specific purpose. The first terrace in the far left had a housing purpose. The second is called Ovoidal Place, and it is believed to be related with ritual activities in specific months and dates. The third terrace is the highest point of Rumicucho, which is a visual domain of 360 degrees. It is suggested that this place had sacred connotations. The fourth terrace did not have any kind of constructions, therefore it could have been used like a central gathering place before going up to the third terrace. Finally, the fifth terrace corresponds to the space located at the south of the Pukara, and it suggested that its functionality was residential. During the months of March, April, and May 2019, I visited the site a few times, expecting and waiting for the weather to be clear during the nighttime in order to achieve a long exposure photograph. This task was very difficult. My idea was to make a photo on March 20th, the date of the first equinox of 2019, but the weather changed that same day, making it the start of a rainy season that lasted a few months. I am aware that I had to know this beforehand, but I trusted my instincts and failed because the weather in this part of the region is very unpredictable. My options were very limited. On May 6th, when the night was very clear for a couple of hours, I positioned my camera looking at where the Milky Way was. I rely upon an app for astronomical photography called PhotoPills that helps me planning and shooting night photographs. This day, the Milky Way was looking east around 10 p.m. It will appear to sight just above the second terrace of Rumicucho. This is the resulting image. Jupiter is clearly visible as well as the Milky Way. The actual aim of this photograph. I wanted to grab a portion of a totality of the terrace, but it was not possible even though I used a wide angles lens. The digital photograph was retouched in Adobe Photoshop, and I like to use digital tools to take advantage of them and experiment with all the possibilities that I can achieve. After I post-processed the photograph, I created again a lumen print of the digital negative, and I exposed it to the summer sun for 12 hours. I don't use chemical fixation on the lumen print because I miss the brownish color of the print. And this is the final result. And let me finish with a quick conclusion. The digital analog archive I am creating is of course subjective. Long exposure photography allows me to produce different outcomes and create various interpretations of these places. Therefore, I can initiate another dialogue regarding my position about historical memory. The places where the archive is being produced are slowly disappearing. One could say that they have disappeared already from abandonment of the national and local governments, as well as the disinterest of locals that uses the site as places to drink or have fun, or to engage on rituals on the days of solstices or equinoxes, that those rituals are not necessarily related with pre-Columbian epistemology. For example, Mount Catequizá has been exploited by mining companies until just recently, and Rumicucho Pukara is now an underrated site controlled by the local community that do not have a plan or the means to keep researching and taking care of the site. After more than a year, I revisited the study and I understood that there is something very magical about Catequizá that pushes me to continue the research, since the natural phenomena is changing every second. I would like to extend the research and make it ongoing. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you have enjoyed my research. Until the next time.